Welcome to AI for Beginners Demystified, the podcast that makes artificial intelligence simple, practical, and profitable for small business owners. Each week, we turn complex AI concepts into real-world strategies you can use to grow your business. Hosted by the team at Internet Marketing Services. This is AI for Beginners Demystified, where the future of business starts today. Let's get started.
Welcome to AI for Beginners Demystified, the podcast that makes artificial intelligence simple, practical, and exciting. I'm Rick Samara.
And I'm Paul Stober. According to recent workplace research, the people most likely to make catastrophic errors with artificial intelligence aren't the complete beginners who are terrified of it.
Right. Yeah. It's actually the people who trust it the most.
Which is, a phenomenal paradox.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you would assume the complete novice is the one crashing the proverbial car, right? But the data tells a completely different story about how our brains actually interact with this technology.
Which perfectly isolates the core problem we're tackling in this podcast. You know AI is a massive deal. You've read the headlines. You understand the theory.
Right. Maybe you've even logged in and poked around a few times.
Exactly. But then you hit a wall and you just stopped using it.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So today, our mission is specifically for you, the listener. We are mapping out the exact bridge to cross that frustrating gap between passively understanding AI and, actually using it effectively in your everyday life.
And to build that bridge, we are looking at a stack of incredibly insightful sources. We're anchoring this on a core article titled, Turning AI Understanding into Confident Real-World Use.
It's a great piece.
It really is. But what makes it so robust is the foundational data backing it up. We've got research from the Pew Research Center, the World Economic Forum, the OECD, Harvard Business Review, and the Brookings Institution.
And what stands out across all that heavy-hitting research is that they aren't talking about computer science at all.
No, not really.
They are talking about human psychology. Okay, let's unpack this central diagnosis from our core article, The Knowledge Action Gap.
Right.
Why does a highly competent, intelligent professional suddenly, freeze up when faced with a blinking text box?
Because we fundamentally misunderstand the difference between passive knowledge and active practice. The Pew Research Center data highlights this really distinct behavioral pattern.
Okay, what kind of pattern?
Well, people try an AI tool briefly, they encounter immediate friction, and then they just retreat.
And they retreat because of how the interface itself operates, right?
Exactly. When you open most software, there are menus, buttons, clear pathways. It basically tells you what to do.
Yeah, it guides you.
But AI presents a blank canvas. It demands that you direct it, which immediately spikes our cognitive load. We freeze because we are frankly terrified of prompting it incorrectly.
We internalize the software's open-endedness as our own lack of skill. We think, I must not be smart enough to figure this out.
Right? When in reality, you just haven't built the muscle memory yet.
I like to think of it like reading a detailed manual on how to ride a bicycle.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, reading the manual might feel incredibly reassuring and safe, but theoretical knowledge doesn't mean you won't wobble and fall the very first time you actually get on the seat.
Exactly. The hesitation is simply a lack of practice, yet we mislabel it as a lack of technical aptitude.
So how do we bridge that intimidating gap between the manual and the pedals?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture in the workforce, the research warns that technology isn't pausing to let us get comfortable.
Right.
We can't just passively react. We have to actively choose to engage. We have to endure that initial clumsiness, that wobbling on the bike, because that friction is the only way through the knowledge action gap.
But to endure that clumsiness, we need a specific framework for how we approach the keyboard. We need to redefine who we are when we log in.
Yes, and the sources define this target persona as the AI practitioner.
The AI practitioner. Okay.
Yeah. This shift requires a complete rewiring of your expectations. A curious beginner approaches an AI interface like a tourist at a magic show.
Right? They ask, what amazing things can this do?
Exactly. They want to see the system write a sonnet in the style of Weil, like solving a complex math equation.
Yeah, they want the party tricks.
But an AI practitioner asks a highly selfish utilitarian question. They look at it and ask, how does this help me right now?
It's a complete shift from seeking novelty to demanding utility.
Precisely. Practitioners don't care about flashy features. They use AI strictly to reduce everyday friction, like clarifying a poorly worded paragraph, organizing thoughts, or prepping communications.
Wait, isn't everyone telling us AI is this revolutionary, world-changing magic?
Well, sure. The headlines are,
So, if we're just using a multi-billion-dollar supercomputer to organize our to-do lists and brainstorm emails, aren't we treating it like a glorified spell checker? I mean, is that really all it takes?
it feels incredibly underwhelming when you frame it that way, I know, but the Harvard Business Review piece specifically addresses this. The mundane actually is the revolution.
Quick question for small business owners. How many calls did you miss this week? Because every unanswered call could be a $500 to $3,000 client booking somewhere else. That's why smart business owners are turning to Voice AI Plus, an AI-powered receptionist and follow-up system that answers every call 24/7, books appointments, and follows up automatically. No voicemail, no missed opportunities, no extra staff. And it doesn't stop there. Voice AI Plus also includes your CRM, booking calendar, email automation, and review management all in one system. Try it free for 30 days and see the calls, the bookings, and the ROI for yourself. Click the link in the description to learn more today.
Really?
Yeah. HPR's analysis shows that the most massive productivity gains don't come from a specialized team inventing a new product.
Okay. Where do they come from?
The real economic value is generated when thousands of individual employees use it to save 20 minutes a day on routine tasks. The revolution is in becoming a reliable, everyday tool.
So you strip away the intimidation by taking the technology off its pedestal and forcing it to do your chores.
Exactly. That shift fundamentally turns an intimidated beginner into an empowered user.
Okay, but if our goal is practical, everyday use, the research issues some pretty massive warnings about how our brains react once the AI actually starts doing those chores well.
Yeah, we start navigating some very dangerous behavioral extremes,
On one side of the spectrum, you have avoidance.
right? This is the professional who just ignores it entirely, hoping the trend passes. And obviously, you fall behind in an ecosystem that is rapidly standardizing these tools.
Avoidance is easy to spot, but the opposite extreme is much more insidious. It goes back to that hook we started with, the danger of blind trust.
Yes, blind trust is where the catastrophic errors occur. This is the user who over-relies on the tool, assuming that because the output sounds confident, it must be accurate.
They completely disengage their critical thinking.
Basically, yeah. They outsource their judgment to the machine.
It's like following a GPS while driving. If you refuse to use it entirely, you're going to get lost. But if you blindly trust it without looking out the windshield, you might drive your car straight into a lake.
That is exactly it. And what's fascinating here is why we fall into that trap of blind trust, which the HBR and Brookings Institution sources explore in depth.
Because it's a huge problem, right? Uncritical use is just as bad as avoiding it.
Worse sometimes, and we fall for it because of the interface itself. These systems are designed to mimic human conversation.
Oh, right.
And human beings have evolved over millions of years to associate conversational fluency with intelligence. When the AI speaks to us fluently, it hijacks our brain's social trust circuitry.
Wow. So we actually anthropomorphize the text box.
We do. We subconsciously start treating it like a reliable colleague rather than just a predictive algorithm.
Which means the ultimate goal of the practitioner is to find that middle ground, engaged but not overwhelmed, confident but not careless.
Exactly. The modern AI-powered world demands that we remain entirely open to the assistance without giving up control.
So how do you actually stay balanced in that safe middle ground?
The answer from the sources isn't about becoming a master coder. It's deeply pragmatic. You build trust through intentional repetition.
Just structured habits, basically.
Yeah. Using AI randomly or occasionally keeps it feeling unpredictable. It spikes your anxiety because you don't know what it's going to generate.
Because if you only use it once a month, it constantly feels like a wild card.
Exactly. So practitioners decide in advance when and where AI fits into their workflow.
Okay, so like every time I draft a weekly update, I use it to outline my notes.
Right. By doing the same small tasks repeatedly, you learn exactly what the AI is good at and where it struggles or hallucinates. Intentional use creates trust and removes all that second guessing.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay,
Isn't deciding in advance a bit rigid? I mean, if I completely script out my AI use, don't I lose out on those spontaneous moments of discovery that make learning fun?
well, the research doesn't dismiss the value of exploration entirely, but it clarifies that relying on spontaneous, random use for daily work just breeds doubt.
Ah, because every outcome is a surprise.
Exactly. And you can't build a professional workflow on surprises. Setting a clear intention shifts you from perpetually experimenting to actually applying. It makes a tool dependable.
So once AI is a dependable, integrated part of your routine, once it's doing the heavy lifting reliably, a crucial question emerges: when the work is done, who is actually responsible for it?
This is critical. AI can assist, draft, and organize, but it absolutely cannot take accountability for outcomes.
Accountability is exclusively human.
Yes, practitioners understand this instinctively. They don't hide behind the technology.
So, what does this all mean? Think about it, listener. If you let an AI write an email and it ends up offending your boss or a client because the tone was totally off for it, the AI isn't getting fired. You are,
This raises an important question, which connects directly back to the research from the OECD and the World Economic Forum.
right, about human centered AI.
Exactly. Ethical, responsible use isn't just about adhering to strict corporate rules, it's fundamentally about personal awareness.
It's about maintaining human ownership over the final product.
Right. You review outputs before sharing, you revise before deciding, and you stay constantly vigilant regarding tone, bias, and context.
You manage the machine, you don't let it manage you.
Precisely.
So let's pull all this together. The tech landscape will undoubtedly change. Interfaces are going to evolve, and new AI capabilities will emerge that we can't even predict right now.
But the skill of working with AI, intentionally, confidently, and responsibly, that is highly durable.
You do not need to master AI, you just need to practice with it. That is how beginners become practitioners.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Yeah. The ultimate implication of all this,
If becoming an AI practitioner means delegating the mundane friction in your day to a machine, what are you going to do with the mental space and time you get back?
that's the real question.
Once you aren't bogged down by organizing tasks or drafting endless emails, what does the truly human part of your day look like?
So let's wrap this up. The big idea from today's episode is actually pretty counterintuitive. The people making the biggest AI mistakes aren't beginners.
Right, it's the people who trust it too much. That paradox really sets up everything we talked about today.
Exactly. And that leads us to the core problem, the knowledge action gap. A lot of people understand AI conceptually, but they don't actually use it in their daily work.
And when they try, they hit that wall, the blank text box. No buttons, no roadmap, just figure it out.
Which spikes cognitive load. People think I must not be good at this, when really they just haven't practiced yet.
The bicycle analogy really nailed that. You can read all the manuals you want, but until you get on and wobble a bit, you're not actually learning.
And that's where the shift happens from curious beginner to AI practitioner.
Yeah, beginners ask, what can this do? Practitioners ask, how does this help me right now?
That's such a key distinction. It moves AI from being a novelty to being a tool, something you use to reduce friction in everyday tasks.
And interestingly, that boring use is where the real value is. Saving 20 minutes a day on routine work adds up more than any flashy, one-time use case.
But then we hit the danger zone, the two extremes,
Avoidance on one side,
and blind trust on the other.
avoid it completely and you fall behind. Trust it completely and you risk making serious mistakes.
That GPS analogy was perfect. Don't use it, you get lost. Trust it blindly, you might drive into a lake.
And the scary part? That blind trust happens because AI sounds human. Our brains are wired to associate fluent language with intelligence.
So we subconsciously treat it like a reliable colleague instead of a tool that still needs oversight.
Which is why the goal is that middle ground, confident but critical,
And the way to get there isn't complicated, it's repetition.
intentional, structured use, not random experimentation.
Decide in advance where AI fits into your workflow. Use it consistently for specific tasks.
That's how you build trust, by learning its strengths and its weaknesses.
And then comes the most important point, accountability.
AI can assist, draft, and organize, but it cannot take responsibility,
If something goes wrong, it's on you, not the tool.
which means you always review, revise, and apply judgment before using AI output.
You manage the machine, it doesn't manage you.
So, if we had to boil this down into a few key takeaways,
First, the biggest barrier isn't intelligence, it's lack of practice.
second, the real value of AI comes from small, everyday productivity gains, not flashy use cases.
Third, avoid the extremes. Don't ignore AI, but don't blindly trust it either.
Fourth, build confidence through intentional, repeated use in your daily workflow.
And finally, always maintain human accountability. AI assists, but you decide.
All right, let's make this practical. What's one thing listeners can do this week?
Pick one recurring task, just one, and intentionally use AI for it every time.
Something simple like drafting emails, outlining notes, or summarizing content.
The key is consistency. Don't experiment randomly. Build a habit.
And as you do it, pay attention. Where does it help? Where does it fall short?
That's how you move from understanding AI to actually using it with confidence.
And that brings us to the final thought. If AI starts removing the friction from your day,
What are you going to do with the time and mental space you get back?
that's the real opportunity.
And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to AI for Beginners Demystified, brought to you by Internet Marketing Services, helping small businesses harness the power of AI to work smarter and grow faster. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Be sure to check out the description below for valuable links and resources, including free tools, learning guides, and ways to start applying AI in your business today. And visit einternetmarketingservices.com to explore even more AI tools, tips, and resources. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep demystifying AI.